Hi, this is Claire and I'm showing you how to use handmade techniques to hang some disc-like beads and make some jump rings. So the first thing I'm using is just some things I have at home, which is an chopstick, and I'm going to make some jump rings. So the first one I make, I leave quite a generous handle to give me something to stop the jump rings from rotating. So I'll just tighten my first jump ring using a pair of pliers. And then after that, I should be just using the little overhanging section as a handle and just wind the remaining wire around, keeping it as close as I can to my first coil. Now, there are, of course, professional equipment and all types of ways to do this, but since I'm working at home, I'm just being resourceful and using an old chopstick. So as you can see, I'm keeping them quite close together and finishing that off. Now, I have made some of these earlier and I used my piercing saw to cut them and a piece of pliers to hold them, just a pair of pliers to hold them. So all of these have been cut using the same technique that I just demonstrated. Now, these are the discs, and I was thinking I didn't really know what to do with them. They were just some discs of Tigerite that I had, and I decided that I would make them, I would use some chain to hang them from some jump rings. So I'll show you the process that I used. So with this size here, which is one of the larger discs, as you can see, they're drilled right through. They are a bead. I measured 6.5 centimeters of wire, and this is a finer wire than I used for the jump rings, and I'm simply thread it right through. So I'm going to use a spiral to hold it in on one side and a loop to hang it on the other. The first thing I do, of course, is use my sandpaper just to take off the sharp edges. So this is emery paper. Now, if you don't have any emery paper at home, you can use nail file, a cardboard nail file which is covered in emery paper, which are quite widely available in supermarkets. So that's something that you can do from home. And now I'm just threading that through. So I'll do the top part first, and in that way I'll know how much wire I have left for my spiral. So using my pliers, which are right here, I'm going to do the loop at the top. So I use the wider part of my pliers here, so I'll just show you what I'm doing. Looping that around, making an even circle so it touches the end of the loop, and then I just fold it back, and that creates a locking off, just that little fold back behind the hook shape locks that so it doesn't pull through the bead. Okay, so now for my spiral. I use the fine end of my needle nose pliers, my round nose pliers, and I just turn that over to a really tight circle, and using my needle nose pliers now, I pinch that very tightly, and then holding it flat between the fine end of my needle nose pliers, I start my spiral. So the first spiral is always the trickiest, and I find it's good to use my round nose pliers in the center to form my first spiral, keeping it really flat. And once I've got that happening, I've got something to hang on to to form, gradually forming the rest of my spiral. So I'm just going to use all of the wire that I have here. And when I get close up to the bead, so I'm now close up to that bead, to lock that off and to create the effect that you can see that I have on all these others, I actually fold that over and just pinch it. So I don't have to pinch it too tightly to crack the bead, because it is a stone bead. And that is quite locked off and secure. So that's how I have made those beads for hanging. Now the smaller ones I haven't actually done yet, and I've decided to use 3.5 centimeters of wire. So again, making sure that the ends of the wire where I've cut it are not sharp. I'll just use my emery paper and then through the disc shape bead. And I think you could probably use these techniques with other shaped beads. It's just that I had these beads and I was thinking that I might like to do something with them. So with the larger part of my round nose pliers, forming a loop to hang that and then pinching it back to create a locking off of that loop so it does not slip through the bead. So I hope you can just see that that has just been bent back. Okay, right, so now for the spiral. I won't need a very big spiral now. So using my very fine end of the round nose pliers, I'm pinching that fairly firmly so that it's really tiny and tight, but still can fit the round nose pliers in. Do my first loop inside and then any other further loops, and there won't be very many with this one because it's a really tiny bead. I might only get one more spiral. It's quite fiddly. And then to lock that off, I just fold it over, and it's so fiddly, over the top of that bead. Right, so that's one of the really tiny ones. So I'm just going to have to plan what I'm going to do with these. I was thinking of making a chain belt, and so I'll do that one later. I'll show you what I'm going to do now. So with this, that's my largest one. I might work with the previous size down. So with this one here, I'm going to slip it through and close off my handmade jump ring. I use 2 pairs of pliers for that. I don't use the round nose pliers. And just move it forward and back to close that off. This is just using materials that I have at home because I don't have a great deal of equipment working in isolation. Okay, so now I'm going to join it to the really large bead. So I'll just open that a little bit using pliers that have a flat inside and thread that through and close that off. So closing off my jump ring forward and back so it's closed off. So now to join those two together, I'm going to use a 3rd jump ring. So it's going to join between those 2 jump rings. So this is always a process of engineering where you have to find out how things fall, and if they don't fall like you want them, you will have to refine them. So I'm just experimenting. I'm going to put those through and close them off. Okay, so let's see if they actually fell the same direction. So they would be, that is the first loop of my chain, and those two beads are suspended. Okay, so I'll just bring the camera down to show you what I've done there. So I've just started my chain. Okay, so I hope to see you back in the studio soon, and I hope you are able to use some of these techniques to help you use your own beads you have at home. Thank you. Bye for now.